infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space.
Welcome to another episode of Into the Fray. If you're new here, I hope you're enjoying it enough to head to your podcatcher of choice to rate and review the show. This helps it aggregate across the listening platforms, which will turn into more people willing to come on and share their encounters. If you've been listening for years, I'd ask that you please do the same. Home base for Into the Fray is intothefrayradio.com. There you will find all episodes, blog posts, and get bonus content info. Speaking of that bonus content, on top of the free weekly show, I also produce bonus content for Patreon and Apple Podcasts Premium. On either platform, you get all bonus audio episodes and early releases, each one ad-free, of course. Full disclosure though, Patreon has a bit more in the way of perks because of their interface. Over there, you will get video versions of patron-only chats, a private Discord channel, and merch at certain pledge levels. So head to patreon.com/intothefray or your Apple Podcatcher app to sign up for bonus content today. You can find me on the big three social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The Linktree link in each of my bios will take you to all the places you want to venture regarding ITF, including Small Town Monsters documentaries, various ways to listen to the show, Beyond the Fray books, contact info for me, and more. And lastly, and really honestly most importantly, if you'd like to share your encounter or encounters on Into the Fray, the best way to get in touch is by emailing me at shannon@intothefrayradio.com. And without further ado, let's get to the interview. To this day, those Robert episodes are some of my favorites because it's just very unique. So I just wanted to say thank you for reaching out and being willing to talk about whatever these things are that you came across.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about what will happen afterwards because it seems like the more I talk about them, the more they come around. But like I've got a few ways of protecting myself with that, so I think I'll be all right.
On this edition of Into the Fray, I welcome Lita on with me, and a previous guest of mine. His name is Tanner Wisdom. He was on, I looked it up, Lita. He was on episode 217, and it was out of Montana, and he told you, hey, I know of a couple of experiences that you've had, and I want you to go check this show out and check out this book. It was in tandem with the episodes, of course, of this show. And there is an entity named Robert on Into the Fray, and you might want to check this out. And you did, and it was similar enough that you did email me. Thank you for doing that. And you are willing to share your experiences with what may be up to 2 of a similar type entity. So thank you so much, Lita. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I did not know that Tanner was on the show. He did fail to mention that.
Oh, well, yes, he was. 217. How modest is that, right? No, that's very, very cool of him. He basically just said, hey, I know that you've had these experiences. Here's the show. But he exactly did fail to mention he was a previous guest of mine. And we had been talking quite a bit before that, Tanner and I. He's just a nice dude, so he's good to have around. I haven't had contact with him in a while, but I think after this I'm going to touch base and say, guess who I talked to?
Yeah, you can reach him on Instagram, probably the easiest.
The best. Okay, I think I will do that. Thank you so much. I don't know how much setup this needs. I'm going to let you just take the reins, however much information you think we all need to get the setup here, and then you can dive right into the encounters.
Okay, well, let's see. I mean, I'm not really sure what it was, and there were 5 total encounters so far. They started. The first one was last Thanksgiving, and I wasn't really the first night was the weirdest because it was like I met both of these things, but then I mean it was just like a normal day, and the first one was weird, but then after the second one it was weirder, third one weirder, and then it just seemed like too many coincidences to be not something more profound than just like an everyday experience, I guess. I don't know. Last Thanksgiving, my folks were in town and they had gone back to their hotel. I went to the local casino just to, decompress, I guess, after dinner because interactions with your family. There was hardly anyone there, and I go to this casino frequently. I was going there probably every day or every other day because I like the bartenders there. So there's like 5 people maybe total in the building, including me and the bartender, and I didn't know anyone else besides her. So I'm saying goodbye, and she asked, what are you doing today, or what did you do today? And I said, well, actually, I worked, and then I had dinner with my parents, and I've got to go out and babysit this chameleon because my friend is out of town. So I was just kind of, doing my decompression before going out to babysit this lizard. And this guy comes up to the cage where I'm chatting with the bartender. He's like, wow, you seem to have so many jobs. How old are you? And I'm just kind of messing with him. I say, I'm 4 billion years old. And he's like, no, you can't be. And I was like, yeah, or I said, no, I'm older than you. And he's like, no, you can't be. I'm like, yeah, I'm 4 billion years old. Maybe I might not be older than you in human years, but I'm surely older than you in more other years, I just started reading my uncle's book the night before, too. And he writes books on aliens. It's called Aliens and the Paradox of Reality. That's a shout out for him. He would like that. But so this was all kind of like, I was kind of like in a weird state, and I was kind of messing with him in a sense, but whatever. And I didn't think anything of it. So I'm leaving, and he follows me outside, and he said, I'd like to hear more about your thoughts on this. He's like, that seems really interesting. I'm always here in this shiny silver coat. I'm like, okay, I've never seen this guy there before, ever. And I mean, like, I go there a lot, right? And he's like, well, what did you mean by like, you're 4 billion years old and you're like, come here and you've been in this planet before, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I said, like, I gave him kind of my analogy for it because this is what I think of. I told him that I was kind of in detention class, like that I've been here before, but like you don't really get to be done with detention, until you pass. So like, who do you look to when you're in detention? The kids who've always been in detention over and over again, or the teacher who's like, dedicating their time, free time, for no reason to help these snot kids, like that's who you look to get out of detention. And that's kind of how I explained to him, like the reasoning of I've been here before, but I'm here to do good kind of thing now. Didn't think anything more of it, right? And so I go over to I stop at my friend's house before I go out to the visit the chameleon because he was close there, but I still had to drive. It was probably about a half a mile. And I stopped in there to say hi for Thanksgiving. He doesn't have family or anything. And so we're chatting, and I was there for probably like a half an hour. And then we started having this conversation about like where we'd like to visit if we could travel anywhere. And I said that I wanted to go to Tokyo, Japan. And we were saying whys, and I asked him, and we're talking about something else. Another 15 minutes has passed. So I was there for probably about 45 minutes. And this woman walks into my friend's house, and she says to me, "Hey, Japan." I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, I thought your name was Japan." I'm like, "No, my name is Lita." I was like, "But that's funny because like about 15 minutes ago, we were having a conversation about wanting to visit there." So this woman walks in. My friend's house is locked. It has to be deadbolted. So I don't know how she got in there. We were in like the second room in, so I don't know how she heard that. And my friend had no clue who this person was totally okay with her being there. So I talked to him later on, and he literally thought that she had come with me, but I was at his house for 45 minutes before. She had him, this is the way I see it, because there was kind of a fog that came over the room. I don't know, like it's this is where details get like, I can't remember, and so I don't want to be like exaggerating, but I'll just kind of go with the way I felt more than, because I can't quite remember. But to me, she was speaking. She had like she said she was from Greenland. She had an accent. My friend kind of went into like a weird hypnosis state. Like he's like, just nodding and agreeing, like, blah, blah, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to explain it otherwise. He's just like kind of hypnotized by this woman. And like, I thought that he knew her until later on. I mean, I literally, and I don't know how she ended up there. She said she was looking for her brother. She mentioned something about the Pentagon. She is speaking gibberish. I could understand everything she was saying in a sense, but like he was just, there was something over him, like it was really odd. And she then pretty much recites my conversation that I had with the guy prior at the casino. And she tells me that they're roommates of sorts, but not like they live in the same house, like they live in the same layer of consciousness or something like that. And like she knew him, but I don't know. And then I was kind of talking to her about the conversation because I'm kind of intrigued at this point. But because I was like, oh, this is interesting. I just read this book. She's like quoting the parts of the book that I started reading the night before that my uncle wrote. Like, I don't know. It was really freaking weird. And this is when it got like, started feeling funny. And she said that her name was Coda, but like her human name was Jen, and that she was some sort of being that is not as old as where I'm from, she said, but she's like something that is stuck on planet Earth and not allowed to leave for all eternity or something, but they're just here to do what they do. And I said, well, what do you mean? Are you good or are you bad? And she's like, neither. We just do what we do. I got weirded out after that kind of, and I was trying to leave my friend's house at this point because I needed to go take care of this lizard. And she mentioned, oh yeah, the geisha, and she called the lizard the geisha, and I was like, then I'm thinking this lady's just nuts. I don't know, but it took me a while to be able to get away from that, and I kind of had this weird feeling all the way going to babysit the lizard. Anyways, I think that was one of the last nights I had to babysit that lizard. The lizard actually died a few weeks later. I don't know if that's related at all to the story, but it was just kind of interesting that happened. She knew about the lizard. She said she did. I don't know. So then that was that. And I just had it was a weird, like, it was just a weird interaction with both of those people, in that one night. So then I told a few of my coworkers, and about a month later, I was helping my buddy move out of her apartment. I kind of told her the story. She was also my coworker. So after we were done, we decided to go visit her boyfriend, who also worked at our place of work. We work at a separate casino than the one in the first night, but the casino nonetheless. And then we go there when we're done. And I noticed this group of people out, well, two guys outside and then maybe three others sitting a little further away. We kind of have a smoking patio. And I kind of had a weird feeling about one of the guys. So like I went in, but then I came back out to smoke a cigarette. And all of a sudden, yeah, it's me and that guy that I had a weird feeling about, and no one else was there anymore. And like I didn't see anyone come in or out. I wasn't paying that close attention, or maybe they walked off. And I like had that weird like rush feeling of I know this person. I was just talking about this thing earlier today to my friend, and so I like look at him. He's probably like 20 feet from me away, not far. He's looking at me, and I said, "Are you following me?" And he just like stared at me. I said, "Are you following me?" Like I repeated myself, and like I kind of like waved my hands. Can you hear me? Are you looking at me? Because it was just him and I at this point. Like I don't know who else I could have been talking to, and he didn't say anything. So I went inside, and I'm kind of shook. And I said to the person who was working, my other coworker, I go, because I told him about it. I said, "Well, that alien is here." And the alien guy walks in. I don't know if I just call him the alien. I don't know if that's what he is. I don't know. That's just how I refer to him. He
Right.
walks in and he like kind of looks around, and I said, "Dwight, that's him." And I haven't served that guy all day. I have no clue who that is. And he just like looks around, then turns around and leaves. So it's kind of weird. That was that. And then the third time, and I ran into the guy. The girl comes in another time, but they're never together. The third time was with the guy again, and I was actually working and with a new girl, relatively new gal. Like we weren't super close yet, but we like were having good conversations. And it was a really slow day, and there were only 2 customers in the building, and then my coworker and I. That was it. It was probably like mid-afternoon. And so those 2 customers were gambling, and the first one was one person that like I've known as regular for a long time, but she did not. She had never met him. She hadn't met either of them. And then the second one was, at first I wasn't sure. I didn't know who he was, and then I was like, I had this feeling every time I went over to bring him a beer, like I started noticing like he was getting beers quite frequently, and he was wanting to talk, but I didn't ever see him drink the beer. They were going somewhere. I don't know. They weren't going on the floor. And one time I went up to him, he's like staring at my chest, but not like in a sexual way. And then he complimented my shirt because it was like very obvious that he was looking like at the center of my chest, but not like looking at my boobs kind of thing, like it wasn't that same look. And so he complimented my shirt to make it weird. And then he like really wanted me to look him in the eyes, and he like put down his glasses, looked at me, and I didn't have a good feeling. I had this funny feeling and tried to just make conversation with him, but he said that it was really weird. His timeline was a little funky to me because he had mentioned like in the conversation that he was 60 years old and that he served in the Iraq War, but he didn't look a day over like 40, but he was also like wearing clothes of a 13-year-old boy. So like none of that really made much sense to me, because like I feel like if you were 60-year-old and served in the Iraq War, you would have been like higher up on the ranks or something, and you would be pretty clean cut. And
Right.
you'd probably, you know what I mean? It just like didn't. I did the timeline of all those things and the way he was dressed. Like he looked like he was coming out of the skate park or something. So like none of that made any sense to me. And so I went back to the bar after serving him a few times. Like, and I told Max, I kind of gave her the rundown of the story, and I said, "You need to go serve him for me instead. Like I'm scared." And so there's the 2 guys, and she goes, and she initially thought I was talking about the other one that's like a regular customer in there, because I just pointed over in the general direction. So she goes to the first one and serves him. Then she goes to the one I was actually talking about, and she comes back and she said, "I thought you were talking about that first guy, but I know who you're talking about now, because my heart sunk to my stomach when I went up to the second guy." But she carries a third eye pendant from like, like the all-seeing eye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she carries one of those with her in her pocket all the time. And I had one. I have one, and I started wearing mine after that because I'm like freaked out. This guy knows we're onto him, so he like leaves. Like he just disappears. He knows that we know what he's up to or something. Like it was weird, and she thought I was talking about the other person. So she got like a body feeling when she went to the second guy, you know. So like that was really odd. I did start carrying my third eye in my pocket after that because I was terrified at this point because they were coming into my work and I've done a little bit of reading about I don't know whatever these bad things are. And they like to frequent like establishments like casinos and stuff because people there are a lot of times weak, you know, and they're easily to like feed off of or whatever, you know. So I don't know. That's just that's where I've run into them publicly. So then I think let's see, it might have been even a month after that. Like they were all kind of like a month apart, except like there was a big gap between the last two, which is between this next one and then the last one. But so then like a month goes by after that one, and then I end up just going over to my buddy's house, who I went to the first night, you know, where that woman walked in, and I have my all seeing eye in my pocket. And I walk into his room, and she's sitting in the corner, and she could not leave the room fast enough. She just, like a rat cornered in a cage with a predator, like trying to get it, you know. She was like, she looked around like for an exit. There's no door behind her, and she got out of there as fast as she could. It was really, really odd. And I was just stopping in, and then I left too. But like, my friend also doesn't remember her being there that day. Like he's like, I haven't seen her since. I don't know who that is, and that was weird, you know. Blah blah blah. It's like, wow, that's odd. So that was just kind of like that's the last time I've seen her, and like I even said hi to her, and she couldn't even say hi back. She just like looked at me like I was going to eat her or something like that. I don't know. Then so then things went pretty dormant for I don't know 6 months, and then I told Tanner the story, you know, like just a couple weeks ago, and then I contacted you, and I'm at the place where I first ran into that guy, the other casino, not my work, and I walk out and I hear, "Hey, Lita." And I had like this stomach feeling. I had this whole feeling of, you know, like I know exactly what's gonna happen. I turn around and literally this guy jumps out of the bushes, pops out of the bushes, and was like, I'm like, how do I know you? You know, because I had a feeling I knew exactly who he was. He's like, we've met here and at so and so's house and at first, and I've never seen him at my friend's house. I've seen the woman, but not him. You know, which is weird. It's like, oh no, you need to leave me alone. And like, I know what you are. I said, I don't know what you are. I don't know what you are, but I know what you're about, and it's not good. And like, as I'm walking away, like I hear him say, "You're absolutely right about that." And that's that's all. What that's all. Like, but I almost like heard it. I don't know, in front of me or like in my head. It was a really strange. Yeah, I'm around still kind of thing. And it was weird because I just emailed you that day, and I hadn't like had any contact with those things or whatever in like probably 6 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And they always like the guy always looks slightly different, but he still has the look. And it's just like, and I can't remember, like, I can't remember his name. I even asked his name that day, and I was like, I'm going to remember this. I can't. I can remember what she said. I can't. And looking back, like, I try to remember what their faces look like. Neither of them had eyes. They have presentable eyes, but they're like not real eyes, if that makes any sense. Like they're just dark holes. That's when you actually look at them, but you're not. I couldn't look at them like for too long. It made me kind of feel funny. So I don't know what they are, but that's mostly it. I would say.
Oh boy. Okay, I've been jotting down all kinds of stuff because the longer you're talking, especially this last little bit, the more is actually standing out about Robert, whoever
Yeah.
he is, whatever he and they are. So the very last portion, you mentioned that the eyes are essentially dark holes. And something that you said a little bit ago was that he was sitting at the bar at one point and then he was looking down like at your chest area, but then he wanted you to look into his eyes and he pulled his glasses down. Are the
Yeah.
glasses when they're up, are they dark enough that you can't see his eyes?
No, but they're just like nerdy glasses. But I feel like he like intentionally like put down his glasses and like kind of put his head down and like looked at me like in that weird like
Mm-hmm.
way. I don't know. It was creepy.
Just like really over the top. Like it's a really over the top action.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was like it was weird. And like yeah, when he was looking at my chest, it was not like he was looking at what was under my shirt. It was like he was looking what was under my rib cage.
Right.
Yeah. Because it wasn't like a sexual look. Like it wasn't like a I'm looking at you like I want to take your clothes off. It's like I'm looking at you like I want to eat your heart.
Like he's reading your soul or something.
Yeah, I feel like it's a soul sucker.
I can only imagine how invasive that must feel. Okay, so you just called him a soul sucker. And I've made jokes about things like this, like, oh, what do they eat for breakfast? Souls, you know? But I mean, we may not be far off.
Yeah, it's just all too much of a like all of it by itself is not profound, but like when it all comes together like that, it seems very profound to me.
I'm sure that you recall in the Robert situation that one of his main characteristics that screwed with both of these people that experienced him, or that he chose to let them experience him, was that he could change his face. Now, you kind of made a mention of this guy, he seems to kind of look slightly different each time.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
so you think that he's able to do the same thing? He has the same ability.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if he turned into that woman too. I don't know because I've never seen them together, and like I'd never seen him at my friend's house, but I've seen her. But he mentioned that I have met him at her house or at his house.
Right, and how
So, like,
convenient that they're roommates, right? You're like, really? There's two of you living in the same place?
but he didn't. But yeah, like she didn't say like roommates. She said like we're like like roommates, but not like we live in the same house, live in the same like
plane of existence,
or like live in the same like like I feel like they live in. She was speaking quickly, gibberishly, but she just kept saying like and and like she just assumed I understood what, and I kind of got the gist, but like not really the same. She's like, but not like we live in the same house. It's like we live in the same head or head. We're in the same. We are the same. Like we're on a team together, kind of thing.
Another similarity was that Nick mentioned that the clothes that Robert wore, he mentioned like it stood out because he didn't see labels, he didn't see tags, there was no brand names. And then you have mentioned a few times like this shiny silver coat, and then this 60-year-old guy that ends up dressing like he just came from the skate park, which doesn't match. It's like they can't get things right.
Yeah, like well, yeah, and then he also said he was 60 and served in the war, in the Iraq war. It just his timeline was all messed up.
Right.
Like because he also didn't look 60. He didn't look a day over 40. And so it's like he was trying to fit a timeline of a person. I mean, he got pretty freaking close, but he didn't get close enough to like fool me. He did have a label on his shirt that day that he was looking at me, and it was like a DC shirt, like a skateboard shirt, But other than that, I didn't notice any labels any other times. And like the shiny coat, he's the one that I mentioned that I'm always here in this shiny coat, and like I had never seen him there in a shiny coat before. Like he's like, I'm always here. I'm like, I don't know because I'm always here and I never seen you before.
And that would have probably stood out to you, and you're like, why would you mention that when I didn't see that.
Yeah, and shiny coat, like it was literally a shiny silver coat. Like those Columbia coats with the inside layer thermal thing, like their special technology. It was like that, but on the outside.
Yeah, that would definitely stand out.
And I hadn't seen him in a shiny coat. I mean, after that I looked for him, and I'd never noticed him there again. And I didn't notice him inside when I was there until he came up to the counter. There wasn't many people there. I mean, I kind of like saw everyone else who was there.
You mentioned handing him a beer, and then the beer is diminishing from the glass, but you're not seeing him actually drink, and you know he's not pouring it on the floor. And that was something that came up in the Robert episodes. And admittedly, they're going, hey, this is a long time ago. I mean, that kind of stuff doesn't stand out to you, but they did say, well, as far as I remember, I don't recall him ever eating or drinking anything the entire time. So that's another similarity there.
Yeah, I mean, I probably brought him like 5 or 6 beers because he's in the casino area at my work at this time, you know. So like, you want to keep people in their chairs, so we go do our rounds and we like serve them to their spot. I probably brought him 5 or 6 beers. I never saw him drink the thing, but I just like because he was kind of in the back corner. I just kind of didn't really think anything of it. I just assumed he was drinking them because I was doing my walking or doing my circle, and then it was gone. And then I'd bring him another that it would be gone. But he didn't even seem to be like getting intoxicated either at all. I mean, you're not supposed to serve people once they're to a certain level, like anything like that. He's still kind of the same, pretty with it. Like he's not getting more talkative or anything like that. He's not showing any signs of inebriation at all.
Did he ever pull out a wallet and tip you?
I think oh yeah, I failed to mention. So he did at one point, and he like when he handed me the money, he like held onto it as I grabbed it for like a little longer than comfortable. And then at the end of the day, I think when he decided he was going to leave, he came up to the bar to try to like interact with me and my coworker one last time, and he wanted me to touch his cup for some reason, grab this cup from him, but I don't know where he had gotten that cup either because I was serving him in a glass and it was like a paper cup with like we have paper cups, but I thought they were all behind the counter, and he wanted me to like fill it with water, and I was like, "There's water over there." He's like, "No, I want you to do it." Like he wanted me to touch the cup while he was touching the cup, kind of thing. Yeah, and at this point, her and I are kind of freaked out, and we're like, "We don't want to touch you." Like,
Yeah, what is that? To get your DNA or something? Like, well, what is
I
it?
don't know, to like have some sort of physical contact of some sort. The money thing, it's like we were both touching that money for like at the same time for a second longer than necessary. It's like once I grab it, you let go. But I don't know, it was really weird.
Yeah, because one of the aspects of Robert was he had no ID on him, no wallet. There was just this creepy little black book full of just names, hundreds and hundreds of names. And you're going,
Yeah,
well, are those the people he's come in contact with or changed into? Or, what is that?
right. I don't know. And I never noticed anything like a book or anything with, I think after that first time too with the lady, like it was Thanksgiving and she, I don't think was wearing a coat. Like, and I don't know where she came from because she just walked into my friend's house. And like when I left, she stayed there. But when I asked my friend when I left, she left right away too.
I mean, for her
But I
not to
don't
be
think
wearing a coat, it should be freezing cold there, right?
yeah, I mean it was cold. Yeah, it was like late November. I mean it was like a few weeks later or a week later than it is now, and it's cold here now. And I remember last year being colder.
Well, and not to mention the whole elephant in the room is her walking into this home should have been a huge red flag for both of you, but she kind of had you both in a trance, especially your friend though. Does your friend right now, if you talk to him, how much does he recall, or does he remember that just being kind of a weird thing, doesn't want to talk about it?
He recalled because I asked him about it later on. Because I just assumed that he knew her, and I asked about it later on. He said no, I didn't know who that was, and I was like, yeah, because she was something bad. And he's like, yeah, I know, but like we got rid of her. Like he doesn't know. I don't think he remembers much. And he was like, well, she was there looking for someone. And I was like, yeah, but she said she was looking for someone at the Pentagon. Like she wasn't coming to your house to look for him.
Why would
Like
she
so,
even bring that up though? The Pentagon stuff.
I don't even know, and I don't even really remember what she said about that because she was kind of going all over the place with that story. I don't. It was really odd. I came from Greenland to look for my brother, and then something with the Pentagon, yada yada. Like they have him, something like that. But I don't think my friend recalls any of that part. He thought that she was looking for someone at his house. I'm like, well, but why were you just cool with her walking into your house?
Right.
I thought he knew her.
I mean,
So
for her to have, unless it's the other guy, for her or him or whoever, ever it is, to have that kind of power to somehow come into a home that is supposed to be locked or was locked and then put the people that are already inside where you're not supposed to be at ease, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. And like, I just assumed he knew her, so I didn't think too much of it. But
Right.
like, you think that he would think something of someone walking into his house that he doesn't know. But then he, like, later on, like I said, I asked him about it, like, again, and he said, "Well, I thought she came with you." I was like, "No, Mike, I was there at your house for 45 minutes before she showed up. She didn't come there with me."
Do either of these entities, unless it's the same one, again, do they speak, besides what they say, do they speak strangely, like their cadence or their tone? Do they kind of get that part wrong too?
Well, she had some sort of European accent, and she did say she was from Greenland, and she was like speaking quickly. I can't really like copy it, but like I understood what she was saying. It was very gibberishy, and like a lot of words were left out. I feel like, and she kept being like, and like and da da da, and and she kept saying, and she was speaking fast. It was really gibberishly, and then the guy, he kind of spoke more normal, but I don't recollect like anything too odd about his speech, but I'm unsure because it gets like my memory. And I try to remember, like, it's weird too because I'll try really hard to be like, I need to like lock this down in my memory because I need to remember this, and then it just kind of fades off real quickly. Like I when I asked him the last time what his name was, I was like in my head, make a verbal or make mental note of that, and I cannot remember. I couldn't even remember once I got into my car what he said his name was.
But you do remember her name, Coda or Jen, right?
Yeah,
I wonder why that would stick in, but then his just cannot stay in the gray matter.
yeah, I don't know. But I was looking up like because I just started doing some research and stuff, and I looked up like what coda had meant, or I just kind of was googling like the name coda, and the meaning is there's a lot of video games with characters or something, or like comic books and stuff with characters named coda, and the pause before the bad ending or something like that.
Mm.
So that was really strange.
Like an end of times kind of a situation?
Yeah, or like the ending of me. I don't know, or ending of I don't know. Like it might be symbolizing I'm gonna I'm gonna ruin you kind of thing. I don't know.
That's a scary thought. Let's hope not.
Well, yeah, I'm not too terribly afraid, but like it was kind of I'm not really a superstitious person either. I started carrying the third eye just because I got that third eye from my father. He went to Turkey. It was a souvenir, and he told me that it was blessed. And I mean, I watched it work. It was in my pocket. She didn't see it. It was in my pocket, and she couldn't leave the room fast enough. And my friend doesn't remember her being there that day. He said that the first time was the only time he's ever seen her, but she was in his house that other time too. So
I just can't imagine like looking up and there's just this random lady standing there talking about the Pentagon.
yeah, she just kind of walked into the room like we were in his bedroom because he's got a little sitting area there, and like the living room's kind of colder, so we always sit in there. And so, but the front door is through the like kitchen slash living room, so like we're the second room in, And she walks in, calls me Japan after I just had that conversation. Oh, I thought your name was Japan.
Yeah.
Like I've never met you before. What are you talking about? Like, and we just had this conversation about me wanting to visit there.
Now, what was she wearing?
I couldn't tell you. I don't remember, but I don't remember her wearing a coat. And she was very, very abnormally tall.
Oh, yeah?
She was probably like 6'5", and that's pretty tall for a
That's
woman.
very tall for a woman, yes.
Like she was like she had to it almost seemed like she had to duck to get into the doorway of his room. She was just super, super tall, and she had a Northern European accent. I don't know. It was really strange, but yeah, I don't. I've seen her the one time since, but yeah, she was just weird, and she was just. It was. I don't think my friend understood many of the words, but he was like kind of staring at, like his face went dumb, and he was just kind of like staring at her and like nodding and agreeing, like he got hit on the head or something.
Were her eyes dark holes as well?
Yes. She didn't have any eyes, I don't think.
But somehow neither one of you are really freaking out that bad when you really probably should have been.
Yeah, well, see, I wasn't freaking out because I just assumed that he knew her. And I was kind of intrigued by what she was saying and how she knew all these things. And then after kind of discovering more and asking her intentions and stuff, then I kind of got weary and I was trying to get out of there. And she was trying to keep me to stay there for some reason, keep talking. You know how when someone just keeps talking and like, well, I got to go now,
Mm-hmm.
and they just keep talking. They can't really they're not really letting you go and you're not trying to be rude. So you just kind of, yeah, that's kind of how it went. Like, I didn't try to look her in the eyes too much because after a while I got kind of a sour feeling in my stomach and I was just like, yeah, I don't know, this might not be too good. But like when looking at her, I couldn't tell you what color her eyes were because I don't think she really had eyes, and they were like very like I just know that he was just staring right at her, like he couldn't stop looking at her, and he just kind of had this dumb look on his face. He kind of went into like dummy mode and just kind of like yeah, yeah, just couldn't really say much more than yeah and shake his head, nod his head yes. It was like she was there to speak to me and not him.
So it's almost like she just turned him off, like hit the off
Yeah,
switch.
that's what it feels like. Yep, that's kind of what he looked like too. Like he had a stupid look on his face.
I mean, especially considering what her eyes looked like. That alone should have, on top of her just being there, because she shouldn't have been there. And then each of you assuming that she had come with the other one, or, oh, it's your friend. Nope, not
Hmm.
my friend with no eyes. Okay, so besides wanting to ask you about, of course, if and I'm not asking you to go into, every story if there are any, but, besides wanting to ask you about any possible encounters with anything that you've had in your life, I pulled up your uncle's book while you were talking on
Oh,
Amazon, and it's Aliens and the Multi Paradox of Reality. And correct me if I'm wrong with his name. Peter J. Mile, PhD. Is that how you say his
um,
last name?
Mealy,
Mealy.
Mealy.
Okay,
Yep.
Miele.
Yes.
And this is a nonfiction book, and it has to do with essentially our origins. Think Prometheus. For Ridley Scott, like he's looking at extraterrestrial ancestry, right? Do you think that there is a chance that you are under some sort of a microscope because of what he's either looked into? Obviously, he's written a book about it, or that what he's tapped into. Do you think that this has
Uh,
anything to do with that?
uh, I I kind of do actually, because I mean it was pretty hard coincidence that I started reading that book the night or the week or like very. It was fresh in my brain. It was like the night before. I've been flipping through it, like, and I really started like getting into it. Had it for a little while, and I really started getting into it like right then. And I feel like she's starting to figure this stuff out. So yeah, I definitely feel that. And I don't know because I did actually call. So this is my uncle is not my biological uncle. He married into my family. So I called my aunt, who is my blood related aunt, my dad's sister, and I kind of told her about it. And then I talked to Peter a little bit about it too because this is what he talks about. Like it's his favorite topic, and that's what he's fascinated by. Like, and I think he has a second book coming. Even I don't know. And like, I felt like he was wanting to tell me all this stuff, and like he's like, I've had encounters with UFOs and Bigfoots. He's been featured in a story someone else wrote about Bigfoot, and I was telling my aunt and uncle recently that I was going to go to this. We had this thing, and I didn't end up making it, which I'm really bummed by, but it was called MontanaCon, and it was basically a whole convention about Bigfoot, UFO sightings, the Montana vortex, and crap like that. He was fascinated by it, and he wanted me to mention his book and like how he had interactions with Bigfoot and tell me all about it. I really wish I would have made it, but it kind of fell through. Yeah, I have a feeling that I started to discover things by reading that book, and then like then that's when these things started happening. It's really, it's just kind of weird. And that book has since gone missing. I cannot find it.
Does he, well, the part that you've read so far, or up to that point until the book went missing, does he talk about anything similar to this? Any being similar to this with these kinds of abilities?
Well, the book is pretty wordy, like, and there's a lot of big names, and so like a lot of what I had been reading is kind of had gotten up to points of just kind of like history of different kinds of beings being here, and I flip around in the book. I don't really read it from start to finish. I was just kind of reading parts that were relevant to me, and like, I mean, I can't remember full names and full stories and stuff. It's pretty fascinating, some of these histories that he's read and experienced. I mean, and he's always, my uncle's always talked about his beliefs on like how we as humans have gotten here. Because I remember like going to visit with my mom and my sister. I think I was still in high school or something. I was still under my parents' care, and I remember Peter trying to give my sister and I some books, and my mom like absolutely refusing them. Well, she thought my uncle was a quack, and he didn't want her pushing, or she didn't want him pushing like his weird beliefs on my sister and I because we were young. And now that I'm an adult, I mean, I don't think my uncle's a quack at all. I just think he's more in touch with things that are present here than my mother is, at least. And I think that he's pretty knowledgeable about this stuff because he opens his mind to it. And I think that's a lot of it, is when you open your mind to these things, they start presenting themselves to you. Because I'm very certain that like there are weird things that are happening, especially, with the United States court case on the UFO and stuff. It's, what kind of mumbo jumbo is this? I mean, like, if and yes, those things have been here forever, longer than we have. So why is it just coming to light now? Because things are getting spilled and more people are becoming awake to these ideas. They're having to say, yes, we do know about this stuff, even though it's been known for probably much, much longer. Like I said, I'm not big on hocus pocus and I'm magic and all that crap until it becomes relevant to me. And then now that it's becoming like something that's happened in my life, it's like it is not hocus pocus anymore, I guess.
So what kinds of things, especially now that you've come on with me, are you going to do to try to, help mitigate some of this as far as protection?
I have friends who, Tanner practices witchcraft, and then I have another friend who does, and I always thought that stuff was really kind of corny, and like, yeah, I'm a witch, okay, whatever. I'll ask Tanner to do, because he does weird spell stuff, and I'm gonna mention for him to like do something weird, and then it's beyond me. I'm not gonna practice witchcraft. I think that is out of my realm, and I think it's kind of corny. But like, I'm gonna just mention to him and my other gal pal, like, hey, if you don't mind, like, you want to like put some sort of protection, like get together with her and like maybe have her put some sort of protector over me, and then like I'll carry my third eye. And I asked my boss too, because she's from the Middle East, and so she like I kind of told her, I asked her, I was like, can I draw this all-seeing eye and put it above the door? And she's like, oh, I've got a chain. She's like, I've got a whole beaded chain of those, and I'll put them above the door. Like, I'm like, I never really believed in all that hocus pocus, and I'm not superstitious. And she's like, oh, I am. And I was like, yeah, then we should put something like that above the door at our work. My aunt, even when I told her the story initially, she asked me if I had been practicing black magic. I wasn't even really sure what she was talking about, but like I was looking up like examples of that. I guess I could have potentially been practicing some black magic unintentionally, but
like you conjured these things around you?
Well, I don't know, but like I don't really understand what black magic is fully, but there could have been ways that like I was not being good to myself and letting them in. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Now, I know that the first time you emailed me, and now here we are recording, it's almost a month gone now when you first emailed me to today. Have you spoken to Peter very recently, within the last month, to where he's caught up with each and every time that you've seen these things?
No, I haven't spoken to him probably since maybe even a month before I emailed you, between the 4th and the last time that I had interacted with these. So he knows most all of it. He hasn't really asked me too much about it since, but I plan on making a visit. They live in Minneapolis, and I plan on making a visit out to see him. I'd like to talk to him about it in person.
Mm-hmm.
Because he doesn't like talking on the phone. He's kind of all over the place, and it's just easier to talk to him in person, and then him showing me examples through books and stuff like that. Like, I think that's easier way for us to communicate with each other versus over the phone. So I need to make a visit out there to really get his opinion on it all.
Yeah.
It's hard to catch him on the phone. Like, he'll talk for a few seconds, but I think he's kind of shy on the phone, and he really wants me to go out there and like tell him my story, and he wants to show me pictures, and like, because he's got like pictures with ghosts and stuff like that. He's like, well, I have to show you in person. And
Yeah, I think that telling someone like Peter the start to finish with all of the details, I think that would be really good to do, because it sounds like he's got a lot of knowledge in that area. And I was going to say, oh, I should get in touch with Peter, but if he doesn't, I don't know if maybe he wouldn't like coming on.
I'm sure he'd be happy to get in touch with you. If anything, like if you were to reach out, he would definitely get back to you.
I'll name drop you. How about that? I'll name drop you.
Please do. And then he'll be more inclined. He won't think it's so weird.
Yeah.
Because I think he gets a little bit like weary of strangers or people he doesn't know.
Hey, I'm the same way. I'm right there with him, especially when we're in this kind of quote unquote work. We get kind of strange folks contacting us, and not strange in a good way like we are, strange in a bad way. We don't always want that kind of attention. All right. So Lita, is there anything that, before I let you go, that I should have asked, or anything that you can think of that you want to say about these things?
As far as I know, no. I think I pretty much didn't miss any of the good parts. I'm pretty sure I got them all. I don't know. I just felt like sharing because I had heard your podcast. It's like, well, I've got a story too, and I've never done anything like that. And also, I think people should, just every person listening, or anyone should know that it happens more often than you think. I don't know. Because I didn't think any of this crap was real. I thought it was hocus pocus mumbo jumbo, But no, it became pretty real pretty quickly. So don't let strangers in your house, I guess. You're not supposed to.
If you can help it, right? I mean, that lady just like showing up is like, wait, was the door locked? Did she come in through a window? Like, what the hell? I mean, it just seems like you just have a beacon on you now. And by the way, Lita, like, we're in touch. Like, I want you to, and it doesn't have to be always like for the show or come back on the show. It's just like, email me if something happens. I want to know. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be, I will for sure. I have your email, and you'll have to reach out to Tanner. I'm going to have to listen to that. I did not know that he was on the show. About the witches, is that what he told you about?
Oh gosh, we talked about all kinds of stuff. I think it was some Bigfoot stuff, some paranormal stuff. I'm sure that came up too. That was quite a long while ago. 217. I just aired 422, but yeah, I can send that along to you as well. I mean, I'm sure you can find it easily. You know how to do that stuff. But
he doesn't tell me the full story sometimes, and he kind of goes on tangents. But like, I've heard some stories, and that is why I told him the story, because I was like kind of anxious to tell him once I got back in contact with him, because I was like, this is right up his alley. He's gonna know like more about it than I am, because he's got some weird stuff going on. But he's I don't know if Tanner's all good, but he's good for me. So
yeah, he seems like a good dude. I had a blast talking with him. I haven't been in touch with him in a while, so I think I'll rekindle that conversation with Tanner too. And yeah, I really will reach out to your uncle and see if he's interested. And don't forget to email me if anything at all happens. I really truly hope it doesn't though. I don't want this to turn into, oh, I talked about it and now the beacon's even brighter for me.
I think I'll be okay, I hope. But yeah, I will definitely let you know if anything happens.
Well, thank you so much, Lita. Thank you for being willing to come on and share is the biggest thing. Thank you so much.